Hello everyone, Simon Jacobson here. Another episode of Meaningful Live. Your vote is power. Use it. This program is dedicated by Nicole Carroll in loving memory of her grandparents Ruth and Stuart Carroll. All the rage going on about the election in New York City this Tuesday. Mayoral candidates, Mamdani, Sliwa, Como, many wondering how is it even possible that in the lead, as the polls show, is Zohran Mamdani, who by his own words clearly is someone that has anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, socialist, communist, not sure exact title. So I'm not from the panic types or fearmongers. I think each of us has to be responsible. The best way to respond to any challenge is to vote your conscience. And whenever you see anything that is a negative, to increase in the positive. We can't control circumstances, but we can control our navigation. How we navigate. The storms will come in every sea, but how you swim is up to you. In this case, in this United States of America, a blessing is for the people, by the people. We elect officials and we have power in our vote. It's all a reflection of the Declaration of Independence, stating that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and have inalienable rights endowed by the Creator. And by extension of that, which is now 250 years ago when this country was established, so each person created equal has the power to vote, has the power to express and to vote for the officials, representatives that they feel are fitting. So to me, it's an expression of our sacred right. Our sacred right. And again, the best approach to everything. Now getting into, I don't know what the future holds. I don't know what kind of mayor Mamdani will be, whether he will be the way he's stated in the past, whether he'll change, whether he won't. But number one, we have the power to do something, is to vote. Vote who you think is the right person. Do not withhold your vote. I always find it shocking that in this country, 60%, 70% is already considered high. People go vote. Can you imagine if 100% people who are able to vote would vote? We may have a very different country. So either people feel their vote is meaningless, or they don't care one way or another. But one lesson that we learn, especially when you have a more polarized society, and you have people who are lightning rods in statements they make, and maybe even dangerous, is use your vote. It counts. It matters. And it's not just a political statement. It's about life itself. You matter. Birth is God saying you matter. You know, they tell the story, joke, anecdote. There was this little town in the good old days. An insignificant town in most people's eyes. Nobody knew who they were. People were more or less impoverished, poor. But one day they get a message from the great king of the country that he's coming to visit this small town. So it's a great honor. But what do? They want to really give him something, a gift, but they have no money. What are they going to do? So the wise men of the town, the wise people of the town, I should say, get together. They come up with an idea. We're going to put a big barrel in the middle of the town, and everybody can afford to pour in a bottle or half a bottle of wine into the barrel. And that way we can give the barrel to the king and he'll appreciate, even though he doesn't need our wine. But it's a gesture, and it shows as much as we were able to do. We gave him a barrel of wine. So one husband tells his wife, you know what? Since everyone's going to pour in wine, why spend so much money? Because for them, wine was precious. We'll pour water. Who will even notice? What's one bottle of water compared to all the wine that everyone's going to fill the barrel with? The problem is every couple in town came up with the same innovation. So what ended up happening was the king got a big barrel of water. That's when you feel that your contribution doesn't make a difference. So number one is we need to understand there's a certain sanctity and dignity to your life. A vote is an expression of that. And there are times where it's more acute, the consequences of your vote, depending on the candidates and so on. I think it's always important, but there are times where it becomes more glaring, if you wish. But above all, I want to say is this: whatever the outcome will be, we will navigate. We will work with it. Sometimes there have to be a setback in order for a wake-up call. There's an expression that when Joseph in the Bible was thrust into the pit, his brothers, out of jealousy, they threw him into a pit. And the Bible puts it this way: it was an empty pit. And then it continues, it had no water in it. So everyone asked the question, if it was empty, obviously it had no water. Why did the redundancy? Why do you need to add it didn't have water? And the answer is, it didn't have water, but it had serpents and scorpions, or serpents and rodents. And the explanation is because a void, when there's a vacuum or a void, it looks like it's empty. But remember, nature abhors a vacuum, and so does the human psyche, and so do human beings. When there's a void, something's going to fill the space. So if it's not positive, it's going to be negative. In human life, psychologically, when you're bored, you have nothing to do. Sounds very innocuous. What can already happen? No, it's not so simple. When you are bored, you are now vulnerable. It's a breeding ground for problems. Because when there's a vacuum, the negative forces will come in. When it's dark, nobody's watching, that's when you see the toxins begin to emerge. All types of creatures, the parasites, the vermin, and so on. There's a big vacuum today in the world that we live in, including the United States. Not just New York, everywhere. A lack of leadership, moral leadership, spiritual leadership, ethical leadership. Ask most people, they're very cynical about it. Most people, they're corrupt, self-interest. Nobody really says, here's a person I really look up to. Even among the candidates in New York, do you look up to? It's just a question, who's going to be the best or the worst? Moral character. So when you have a vacuum, that's what happens. That's what happens. Maybe all this is a wake-up call to teach us that we better start filling that vacuum with something. What do our young men and women think? What are their standards? What do they stand for? When you've been playing video games for many years and watching sports and being involved in sex or rock and roll or other things that don't have any long-term or transcendental value, what do you think happens to relationships? What do you think happens to our personal value system and standards? It's a vacuum. I look at what's happening in New York as part of that vacuum. So maybe the only way to resolve a vacuum is once and for all, you get something maybe you don't like, and you learn from it. Wake-up call time. Or maybe something will happen that's surprising that we can't even expect. But the point is, you are either part of the problem or part of the solution. We have to become part of the solution. 3 types of people I always talk about. Those that make things happen, those that watch things happen, and those that ask what happened. Today, a lot of people are watching what's happened. They turn on the TV, the internet, their phone, following election results, following the World Series, following a football game, whatever it may be. It's time to make things happen. And you start, yes, with voting. You start with expressing yourself. Why don't you write down on a piece of paper the 3 most important values in your life and ask your family to do so? It's a good way to begin. At least the conversation begins. We are in a situation where we need to become, the best defense is offense. We need to start filling the vacuum with giving feeding ourselves, nourishing ourselves, our families, everyone we know, our schools, our students, with something forward-thinking, something progressive, something positive. How would you like the world to look like in 5 years from now? In 1 year from now? Tomorrow? And not just highfalutin platitudes, but an actual vision for the world, for your life. And then do something about it. That's the world in which we want, that's the world in which we want to create. So how you act will create the world, because it's not going to happen to someone else. And if it does, will it be the way you would like it to be? So it's time to start taking that responsibility. That's the lessons I'm learning from all that's going on. People are calling me, contacting, what's going to be, how could it happen, I'm going to move, I'm running. So first, stand up and vote who you think you should vote for. And then secondly, we don't all have political connections, but in your little world, you can make a big difference. And today with technology, we can share with many people. Things will go viral. People hear things. And it's interesting how many people I see are on the defense, how they're running, the fear. Now, I understand that. I can justify it. I'm not trying to dismiss or criticize. But that's not good enough. We need to become proactive. What do you stand for? Not just what you stand against. And you're waiting only when something doesn't work the way you like, that's when you wake up. So let us become proactive. Let us become leaders in our own right. Players in the game, not just people watching, not just voyeurism, not just observing others, but to make things happen. Election will be on Tuesday. Go out and vote. And above all, become a proactive citizen. In your little corner of the world, your sphere of influence, the people you know, your family, strangers, co-workers, anyone you meet. But in a beautiful way. Not as a proselytizer, not as a preacher, but just sharing how we can make the world a better place. Simon Jacobson here, meaningfullife.com. It's about a meaningful life. We're here to help you find that meaningful life in everything we do. And it all begins with you. You matter. Yes, your cup of wine makes a difference. And your cup of water also makes a difference. If this message was meaningful to you, please share it with others. Please subscribe to our offerings, subscribe to our growing YouTube channel. And I'd love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, your comments, your critique. You matter, and your voice matters. Use it well.